Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Change of scenery, I know, get used to it for at least this video because this wonderful place behind me is my abode for the evening today. Taking a little trip up to the northwest of Bali, 3.5 hours drive from my house. International break means I take a break, but we don't really take a break because I still talk to you about the sacking of Julian Nagelsmann, Bayern Munich's manager. 1 point off the top of the Bundesliga, won every single match in the Champions League, about to embark on a quarter-final against Manchester City with potential European glory pending. They sack Nagelsmann and are going to appoint Thomas Tuchel before they've even informed Julian Nagelsmann that he's sacked. Fabrizio Romano, Mr. Here We Go for transfers, was the here we go for Julian Nagelsmann's career, for his job. He found out that he was sacked, basically from reading Fabrizio Romano's tweets. This is a crazy footballing world we live in. But the repercussions of all of this are absolutely discussion worthy from a Chelsea perspective, because on the market, despite what Eunice and I said about it being impossible for Julian Nagelsmann to be the next Chelsea manager if Todd Boehly pulls the trigger on Graham Potter, we said it wouldn't be possible because why would Nagelsmann be sacked from Bayern Munich? At the moment, we're still all in the dark about this one. We don't really know the reasons why, but I would absolutely hazard the guess that Bayern Munich are used to running away with the Bundesliga, and considering that they're only 1 point off the top, which isn't top of the league, that's not good enough. You can win every match in the Champions League and be in the quarterfinals and still get sacked. The world that we live in footballing terms, is just a catastrophe, if you ask me. But Thomas Tuchel is jobless since Chelsea fired him back in September after a loss to Dynamo Zagreb. Thomas Tuchel is the ultimate manager to win you knockout tournaments. He did it at Chelsea. He came in and somehow won Chelsea their second Champions League title when it looked as though it was an impossible task against Atletico Madrid last 16. You've got Real Madrid in there, and for the love of everything holy in the world, I've forgotten the other team that we beat on the way to the final. That is ridiculous. Porto as well, and then Man City in the final. Tuchel came in, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that if any other manager in world football would have come in at that specific moment, Chelsea would not have won the Champions League. The rigid difference between Frank Lampard's fluid yet still rigid Chelsea team that were losing matches, scoring goals, to the defensively astute and solid Thomas Tuchel Chelsea, the difference between those was astronomical. It was plain to see from the naked eye, from the footballing geniuses out there. Thomas Tuchel revolutionised Chelsea. Now, Bayern Munich, we're talking here about a powerhouse in German football. We're talking about a team who are dominating in Europe this season, knocking out Paris Saint-Germain in the last 16. And for whatever reason, Julian Nagelsmann was brought in not too long ago. And the project to take him away from his job at Leipzig, to take him into Dortmund, to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich saw this as a potential window to try and bring some kind of stability to what was already a pretty stable club. But what we're seeing now is Bayern Munich, the way that they're running, they're leaving less and less decision-making up to the manager, which to me screams out, when you've got Julian Nagelsmann, a manager who is a project manager. This is where we're going to turn this into a Chelsea conversation in a minute. When you've got a project manager like Nagelsmann, and then you get someone in who historically, over time, ends up in conflict with every single owner that is around Paris Saint-Germain. At Chelsea, new ownership comes in, and before you know it, Thomas Tuchel is fired by Todd Boehly. Thomas Tuchel naturally doesn't get on so well with the owners and decision makers of football clubs. So, what does this scream out to me? This screams out that Bayern Munich think that this is their best time to win the Champions League, and with Thomas Tuchel on the market, they have just pulled the trigger, shot Nagelsmann out of a job, and taken the #1 manager in Europe to win knockout football matches, Thomas Tuchel, former Chelsea manager. So, what does this mean? If Chelsea beat Real Madrid and Bayern Munich knock out Man City, which is what they're foreshadowing with this appointment, in my opinion, then Chelsea will face Thomas Tuchel. Graham Potter will face Thomas Tuchel as Bayern manager in the semi-final of the Champions League. This scares me, I'm not going to lie. Potter versus Tuchel, at the moment, it is still a mismatch made in hell from a Chelsea perspective, because Tuchel is now the Bayern manager. This is such a crazy story. But the reason it's so crazy from a Chelsea perspective is that Todd Boehly here has an opportunity. And I'm going to give my reasons as to why he could or wouldn't or shouldn't do it in a second. Todd Boehly could see Julian Nagelsmann as the perfect project building manager, which he actually is, I think. If we were to be really honest about this situation, even the most highly Graham Potter in fanboys, lovers, whatever you want to call it, even those that really back Graham Potter will look at Julian Nagelsmann and be like, okay, well, when you've got a load of young players, you've even got Nkunku, who was so good under Nagelsmann at Leipzig, you've got these players coming through the door in the summer, and you've got an incredibly young, talented squad with an incredibly young, brilliant tactician, Julian Nagelsmann, available. Is there a possibility that Todd Boehly might pull the trigger here on Graham Potter whilst Nagelsmann is available? Nagelsmann takes over at Chelsea, and then lo and behold, we have got a battle of two managers against their former clubs, potentially in a semi-final of the Champions League. The way that this works blows my mind, and I don't think it's actually going to happen, because I think there are so many different elements of saving face here that Todd Boehly will take into consideration. First of all, there was a moment to sack Graham Potter, and it was after the defeat to Spurs before the game against Borussia Dortmund. However, Nagelsmann isn't there at that point. We're looking at all of the managers. Me and Eunice talked about it in the tier list. Who would have come in and off the top of our head, we immediately go, perfect fit for Chelsea? There wasn't anyone. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. We didn't see this coming. So, right now, is there another window of opportunity here for Todd Boehly to just pull the trigger on Graham Potter and bring in Julian Nagelsmann whilst he's free? Personally, I think we have now given Graham Potter the chance, and when he's won 3 out of the last 4, yes, awful draw against Everton, entirely his fault. I do not see Todd Boehly doing this for the simple reason of, if you don't sack him after Spurs and then you get 10 points and knock out Dortmund in your next 4 games, how can he possibly go and rationalise this one now when it comes to being a man of his word, sticking to his plans, seeing a vision in Graham Potter, and then just because another shiny manager becomes available, we pull the trigger and bring in Nagelsmann to the club? Is there any way, let me know in the comments down below, could you see this happening? Is it a possibility? Is there potential? And should it be something that we consider? If I'm being honest here, as much as I've given Graham Potter that chance as well, and I've praised him in those 3 wins we had in a row, I said a lot of that is down to Graham Potter, but so was the draw against Everton. So is the horrible position that we're in the Premier League, and the daunting prospect of facing Real Madrid in the Champions League after what we saw against Everton. We got, I think, 2 or 3 league games before that first leg against Real Madrid. Do I have the confidence that tactically Graham Potter can outwit Carlo Ancelotti? No, I don't. That is me being as honest and blunt and brutal as possible. But I just don't think it's possible to bring Julian Nagelsmann to the club now. I think the way that Potter has stuck with, or Boehly, sorry, has stuck with Graham Potter up until this point shows that they're backing him. And whether or not you see what Todd Boehly came out and said to the fan filming him in the street outside Stamford Bridge after that draw to Everton, he's using the same kind of profanities that I would use if I didn't have this YouTube channel and I get demonetized if I swear. But he echoed the thoughts and feelings of almost every Chelsea fan coming out of that stadium. When we heard the rumours at Chelsea that there was a few members of the board, those making the executive decisions at the club, who were unsure about Potter, maybe thought there was someone better available. This is the moment where we will see how this new structure at Chelsea operates. There is a massive opportunity here. I said Nagelsmann no, but then when you look at what he's done at Leipzig, when you look at what the project stands for at Chelsea in the way that we've signed players and all of the things we've heard from the new owners, Nagelsmann does seem like a perfect fit. I just never thought he was going to be available, because who could have foreshadowed him being fired, a point off the top of the Bundesliga, and Bayern Munich cruising in the Champions League? Thomas Tuchel is the man who has the ability to make that happen, a man who Chelsea fired earlier this season in September. It is a crazy, crazy story, and maybe this isn't the end of it. I want to find out the reasons why. Was there anything going on at Bayern Munich to see Nagelsmann be sacked? Or was the delicious full-course meal, 20-course meal of having Thomas Tuchel as your manager just too good and irresistible for Bayern Munich to turn down. This is absolute madness. I would love to hear your thoughts. Would you take Julian Nagelsmann at Chelsea? Do you think it would be a gamble? Or do you think Nagelsmann would get Chelsea playing such great football with the current personnel we have at the club and with the hidden incentive of Christopher Nkunku coming into Chelsea in June and the brilliance that we saw from Nkunku under Nagelsmann as his manager? I don't think this is going to happen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there a possibility, and what would it take at this moment in time, and how long will Nagelsmann be out of a job? If Chelsea are knocked out by Real Madrid in the middle of April, surely then, if Nagelsmann's available, this has to be considered. Todd, get thinking. I'm not saying do it right now because I'm not convinced yet. Although I don't know if I'm just saying that to myself because, I don't know, maybe I am convinced. This is an odd one, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Subscribe to GBFC if you haven't already done so. We're so close to 250,000 Chelsea fans. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and enjoy this wonderful view in the surroundings behind me. Come on, you Blues.